Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
It goes beyond simply going up once or doing. You must perform it several times to obtain the character. Performed this exactly 50 times. 50 times like that. Gary C. played heroes for decades on Lieutenant Dan and Detective M. Taylor on Screen Presidents and Astronauts. But in 2018 he encountered a real-life conflict without a script could get him ready for. 2 members of his family members received a cancer diagnosis. What followed compelled him to make an unfeasible decision. He turned to leave hundreds of millions of dollars in a career. He acquired knowledge he had never desired, and something was left behind by his son Mac, so strong that it continues to transform lives today. March 17th is Gary C's birthday. Blue Island, Illinois, 1955. Since his father was a film editor, his blood was already Hollywood. However, had you met Gary when he was a teenager, you would never have guessed that he was involved in show business. He wasn't pursuing well grades or attempting to win over others. Hugh was raised in a working-class area, when hard work was valued more highly compared to inventiveness. Despite his father's relationships with the movie industry, Gary hadn't a desire to take a similar route. Rather, he performed in rock groups and barely made it through school. In high school, everything changed. And not because he was planning something big. Gary tried out for West Side Story at the age of 17. Only for amusement. To him, it was a joke and things to do with his friends. However, unexpectedly something occurred as soon as it clicked when he read his lines. For the first time ever, he experienced it constraint. The outcome of that dumb audition have been the turning point in his life. He became enamored. Behind that drama instructor by the name of Patterson Barbara, she saw more than just a long-haired rebellious youngster. She noticed his unaltered talent, and she wouldn't let it go to waste. Gary was cast in the play by her, but above all, she had faith in him. She nurtured and coached him and helped him recognize who he was able to. Her impact continued after a single performance. She turned into a mentor. Influence in his life that facilitates his trading to moil for the craft. That change didn't occur in a vacuum. Gary's relatives had relocated to Highland Park from Blue Island, a more affluent suburb to the north of Chicago. It was a different, wealthier, and more demanding and regimented. He didn't immediately fit in. He had Italian ancestry, German, Scottish, Irish, and English, French, and Swedish. A combination of everything, but not anchored in any place. That uneasiness drove him deeper into rebellion, but it was also beneficial to him gain a deeper understanding of others. Additionally, fateability, human comprehension, and would eventually make him such a strong performer. By 1973, Gary had completed high school, or Marin. Indeed, he concluded as a member of the 1973.5 class. Only a handful. Several months later, he made a ridiculous move. He and 2 pals, Rick, were 18. Leslie Wilson and Argos established a theatrical group. No wealth, no celebrity, just and miss. A drama about 3 teens. Raren has a little drink and rents a warship space in Deerfield. They made a Calth book-inspired band. Steenwolfie chants. One of them was reading. They discovered a gap in 1975 and took over the name of a theater that has failed business to reduce registration costs. They relocated to the basement of a Highland Park Catholic church. It was cold and claustrophobic, with hardly any, but it turned into their instruction. The ground. Future celebrities such as John Malevich, Larry Metcalf also joined. They lacked big budgets or red carpets, just plain skill and perseverance. Gary wasn't merely he was directing as well as acting. In 1974, he took over Grease and was in charge of from top to bottom. Actor, producer, and director simultaneously. Then, he gave instructions. Tom, who starred in The Glass Menagerie, expertly juggling both jobs. The majority of years are spent honing a single profession in theater. At 19, Gary was doing 3. The largest discovery was made in 1982. Gary co-starred and directed True West, Malkovich. It wasn't just another play. That was when Stephen Wolf blew up outside of Chicago. They adopted the Take It to New York. It was praised by critics. Gary T. The Best Director Obie Award. Hugh was just 27 years old. The disobedient teenager who nearly dropping out of school was now receiving recognition as one of the top young directors across the nation. But Gary's experience in Hollywood was far from simple. Gary Sinise believed in 1979 that he was prepared to conquer Hollywood. He was, despite being just 24. He had already co-founded Steenwolf Theater Company of Chicago and built a strong reputation on stage. He thought he would become the next James Dean. Consequently, he moved to Los Angeles, full of optimism and confidence. The ensuing 10 months of silence and disappointment. The soulless labor was so brief that you missed it. Roll in knots as a boy on the beach landing, that was it. No spotlight, no major setback, simply a solitary phone that never rang. Later, Sinai referred to the entire dreadful item. The rejection was so difficult that he gave up and went back to Chicago. His hope was dashed, and he made no real attempt for more than 10 years. Hollywood once more. However, abandoning acting didn't imply abandoning narrative. In a surprise that nobody anticipated, Sinise discovered his entry into the field not as Abbott as a director and an actor. In 1986, he started directing Crime Story episodes, a crime drama set in Las Vegas in the 1960s. He had an opportunity to flaunt himself on the television, his ability to see and gain access tough doorway. In 1989, he then directed episodes of the highly regarded television show 30 Some was renowned for its realism and depth of feeling. By 1988, the large screen was where Sinise had made his debut, directing the movie Miles from Home, which is about Midwest farmers who are having difficulties. Starring Richard Gere, Sinise's fashion received a lot of attention behind the camera. Many believed that his future was in directing rather than performing. That was altered. 1992 Sinise appeared in the film A Midnight Clear as a brief yet impactful combat movie set while the Bulge was being fought. He portrayed soldier Vance Mother Wilkins, on the verge of being plagued by Hishel at home. The movie didn't enter. It only generated $1.5 million, against a budget of $5 million, although detractors adored it. Roger Ebert commended the whole Sinise performance, and the cast were noteworthy. He used suffering and uncertainty, tone and accuracy. However, the movie was too strong for general audiences. It became a forgotten treasure, a film that have seen but missed. Regarding Sinise, however, it was a crucial occasion, evidence that he could provide his best performance on screen. Level. Later that year, he produced Adring Action. He produced, directed, and played the lead role in Of Mice and Men on the other side of John Malkovich. Lenny. It was his project of passion, and he gave it everything he had. The movie made the 1992 Cannes Film List. Received a Palme d'Or during the festival. Nomination. Sinise didn't merely pretend. He influenced the whole movie. Foot of Horton penned the screenplay, which received praise from critics. Way loneliness was depicted in the story, hopes and hopelessness throughout the Great Depression. The film validated Sinise's artistic ability and demonstrated his capacity to balance the camera's two sides. He was no longer merely a theatrical enthusiast attempting to make it into a movie. He was authentic. From 1983 through 1993, Sinise was grinding. He wasn't famous yet, but he was gaining admiration. He continued to work with Stephen Wolfe, performing in plays in Chicago like John Malkovich and True West. That performance was really UNPOLISHED. Captured for the public broadcasting service. Additionally, he received 10 nominations for the roles of guiding, establishing trust in the theater industry while continuing to strive for a movie. He was patient. When questioned regarding the lengthy journey, Sinise stated, like rockets' careers, don't always take a departing on schedule. The secret is to consistently maintain the engine in motion. That silence eventually perseverance would pay off. Inzini appeared in the 1994 miniseries They Stand in accordance with Stephen King's book. He portrayed Stu, a survivor in a shattered world, Redmond B. Plague. The show was broadcast on ABC and drawn for more over 6 hours. It was fierce, dramatic, and provided Sinise with a venue to demonstrate how much he had developed in creating momentum. But it was only pre-workout. His life was going total forever. In the same year, he went to the Forrest Gump audition. The part was Vietnam veteran Lieutenant Dan Taylor. Hollises both legs and becomes furious. An addiction before achieving tranquility. It was a challenging position. The filmmaker, Tom Hanks and Robert Zemeckis, with deep penetration skills. Sinise and only act. He researched veterans, conversed with amputees, and made himself within their universe. He had a tough audition. He was cast in the part. Acting as Lieutenant Dan needed a complete change. The Sinise elaborated with medical experts to comprehend the use of prostheses and how double amputees made a move. However, the actual difficulty was sentimental. Lieutenant Dan was anger, brokenness, and bitterness. Scenes had to display everything. The anger, the grief, and lastly, approval. That was a memorable performance. Detractors, it was commended. It resonated with audiences. Veterans also recognized themselves in it, though the movie was a worldwide hit, and the part played by Sinise became recognizable. The mid-1990s saw Gary wasn't simply getting up, he was leaping to the highest levels of Hollywood. Following years of construction recognized both on stage and in supporting roles, everything changed in 1995. In that year, he reunited in Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks. The movie depicted the compelling, real-life narrative of NASA's problematic lunar mission, and Sinise portrayed astronaut Ken Mattingly, the team member who was grounded and labored frantically from Earth to assist in saving crew. His performance was incisive and emotional, finding the ideal equilibrium of heart and tension. Apollo 13 produced more than $355 million globally on a $62 budget of millions. It was adopted by Universal. Top grossing movie of the year and received 9 nominations for Oscars. Detractors and viewers paid attention. Abruptly, not only was Sinise respected, but he was bankable. He had a rapport with Hanks, and his capacity to compete in high-stakes tale demonstrated that he was prepared for the major leagues. Sinise, that same year, took an unexpected turn on TV with playing President Harry S. Truman, a somber biographical movie about Truman for HBO. He prepared for months, examining Truman's speech, mannerisms, and contemplating. He even sought advice from Trump and daughter to do it correctly. When it was broadcast September 1995, more than 8.6 million people watched. The show was hailed as one of the most accurate depictions of a US president or made a broadcast honors game after. In addition to a Golden Globe, he received a Screen Actors Guild Award and nominated for an Emmy. Sinise had demonstrated that he may take the lead, whether in space or in the White House. More significantly, he demonstrated his ability to handle serious stories with genuineness. Then George arrived. In 1997, Wallace played a part that most actors would stay away from. Sinise played the contentious governor of Alabama, is renowned for his political and racist actions flip-flops. The character wasn't simple to play, but that didn't work out. Then the movie ran for 2 evenings in August, attracted over 21 million viewers. Sinise encapsulated all of Wallace's contradictions, his charisma, his brutality, his drive, and his remorse. He was won over by the performance. Won an Emmy in 1998. Defeating candidates such as Stanley Tucci, detractors claimed that he contributed an unsettling humanity to a figure of division. It was dangerous, and it paid off, while TV displayed his kept call range. In between, from 1996 to 2000, Sinise piled up blockbuster roles like To a Real Film Star. In the 1996 Ransom Case, he was the antagonist, an FBI renegade agent, playing with cold calm. That movie made $39 million worldwide. Then Snake Eyes appeared. He played a corrupt police officer in 1998. Across from Nicolas Cage, it didn't get ratings, but $13 was still earned. Millions globally. He joined in 1999 as Brutal Howl, the Green Mile stern but compassionate prison guard. The movie made over $286 million and 4 nominations for Oscars. Even his misfire, the 2000 Mission to Mars, which only $111 was made for a $100 million investment. Back, demonstrating the studio's faith in him, having executive positions in large-scale projects. A unique combination. He was an actor who could take charge, assist, and switch between heroes and villains with ease. However, Sinise wasn't just interested in box office revenue. He was pursuing respect as well. He would previously appeared in and directed Of Mice and Men in 1992. That movie made it regarding Cannes' primary competition. Through world's most prestigious film festival, it meant something to be chosen. It meant the movie was serious. The same degree of Miles's early recognition came from 1988's Home, which also participated in Cannes. The majority of actors never make it. Sinise arrived twice. It sent a clear message. He was more than a mere entertainer. He was a creative person. Ken opened the box's doors. Office numbers were unable to. It displayed the role. He took the craft seriously. In Hollywood, was stunned by Gary Sinise in 2004. Hello fed big-budget film roles and dented a weekly television program following receiving a nomination for an Oscar for Forrest No One Is Gumping or praising Apollo 13. Anticipated that he would join a network. Crime display television wasn't a thing back then, a location for serious performers in movies. However, Sinise noticed something that others missed. Rather of waiting months between films, he could now reach millions of people each week. Furthermore, CSI and NY wasn't merely a work, it turned into a stage. His persona M. Taylor served in the Marines. They provided disciplined service and honesty. It was more than fiction. That persona mirrored Sinise's actual strong desire to assist veterans. He discovered a way to serve and act simultaneously. PM Taylor didn't simply appear on the screen. One evening, CBS was clever. McCanna's persona made an appearance in a CSI Miami special episode. Mac took off to Florida in order to find a fugitive murderer. In that one episode, he was first exposed to myth. After a year, the two performance parted once more with a crossover. This time, a murderer was being transported by air from Miami to New York. These collaborative episodes weren't only entertaining TV, they were planned. Audiences were warmed up to M. Taylor prior to CSI NY started. Audiences knew him already. They had observed him at work. The new show didn't launch with Notfield Brand. That intersection bloopter was so successful that it eventually became the norm for growing franchises on network television. After Theseries began, it continued to grow. For 9 years, Sinise worked tirelessly. From 2004 to 2013, he made appearances in all consisting of 197 episodes, just 3 that was matched by other actors. They took a video point to 4 episodes each year, maximum. Everybody took lengthy hours, 12 to 16 hours a day. At times, Sinise did more than just act, though. By the second season, he turned into a producer. He even provided assistance, composed narratives, and in some way he continued performing in films as well, such as I Still Joe Bell and Believe. Meanwhile, he increased the scope of his foundation activity. It was exhausting, but it was worthwhile. Later on, he acknowledged that he was able to Get Up and take a step back. It provided him with the freedom to concentrate on what really mattered greater than notoriety. Furthermore, the show itself, enormous impact. Even in the last season, nearly 10 million people watched it. There were even more in previous seasons. That's remarkable for a Friday show. Evenings a difficult rating slot. Forrest ceased to serve as lieutenant, according to several Dan. Detective M. Taylor was his new name. Though the show's popularity stretched far beyond, it was broadcast in more than 200 nations. Everyone observed this tranquility, crime-solving detective with discipline. Prior to everything else, Sinise had already risked his life for something greater than acting. Since 2003, he has produced 5 journeys to areas of conflict, to Iraq, and another to Afghanistan. These weren't brief visits. He didn't simply arrive for a camera and a handshake. He remained, held concerts under improvised tents, encountered injured soldiers in field medical facilities, and fought through battle in convoys. Zones he visited at the height of the war, when each visit was accompanied by acclaimed threats, mortar assaults, and gunfire wasn't merely a possibility. They were anticipated, but he continued to appear. As a result, the troops had faith in him. He wasn't a famous person doing a function, among them was him. In 2004, he took that confidence and made it a music. He established Leighton Dan Band, which takes its name from the character that made him well known. However, this wasn't a vanity project. This morale was movable. Device. The band didn't perform at safe venues. In arenas with air conditioning. Where did they go? The troops were in hazardous areas, distant from home. They performed vintage rock. Pop, as well as patriotic songs, to emotions, and provide respite from the strain of battle. For numerous soldiers, such their primary source of happiness was attending concerts. Sinise also continued. Above the band has performed in more than 500 performances, including dozens abroad areas of conflict. By 2011, Sinise became aware of his impact-required organization. In that year, the Gary Sinise Foundation was established by him. What began as an effort to assist the number of injured veterans quickly increased. The smart homes are now built by foundations, designed to assist disabled veterans, first responders, aids military households, and provides funding for mental health initiatives. They blend amusement, therapy, and instruction, all with the goal of recognize and serve those who make sacrifices. They have constructed numerous residences, using technology that is adaptable and intended to assist veterans take charge of their life. Again, although Sinise's art is personal, it's professional as well. He is a skilled runner and operation generate money and deliver individuals in one group, using his notoriety to make something durable with the decline of his acting career. In the summer of 2018 saw the arrival of Gary Sinise. Collapsing. Initially, there was news that Moira Harris, his wife, had stage 3 breast cancer. She needs surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. The whole battle. Gary was heartbroken. However, they were anticipating her medical care. The blow struck. August 8th, his 27-year-old son was identified as having only approximately 300 people have caught him an uncommon cancer. It is diagnosed in every American year. His spine was attacked. In the over a 2-month period, his wife and battling for their life son. What began as Mac's back discomfort and swift light changed into a scary thing. When Gary noted that after seeing the MRI, it appeared tummy youngster is being grabbed by a monster. The image would always be with him. The tumor grows quietly, frequently without being noticed, until it starts causing significant harm. By the way, the tumor first appeared at ways endangering Mac's capacity. Toak and his prospects were in jeopardy. However, this wasn't the first instance. Gary had put his family to the test, returning to the middle of the 1990s. As his career in Hollywood was flying after his house, Forrest Gump, life was disintegrating. Moira was fighting alcoholism. Gary made an effort to conceal the bottles, but she continued to discover fresh to store them. It became so awful that he had to depart with the children. The pivotal moment occurred in a church basement, when a woman in Chicago encouraged her to become a Catholic. That spiritual everything changed in an instant. Following 3 months of rehabilitation in 1997, Moira became sober and remained sober for almost 2 decades. However, nothing could get them ready for 2018 as Moira underwent chemotherapy treatments. Gary took on a new position as coordinator and caregiver for Mac, and for her he identified himself as the air traffic controller. At one, Mac was on 25 different cancer treatments. Drugs. Gary handled everything. Drugs, appointments, research, operations. He was always in a condition of haste, seldom pausing for air. "Have a good day," he said to Mac. "I'll concern over the disease." Yet in private he felt powerless. When nothing appeared to, he would say a prayer before heading to work. Let's get back to fighting. In 2019, Gary made a devastating choice. He shared couldn't leave home squad. That one sentence put a stop to his acting career. Headiclin's significant cinema roles and shows such as 13 Reasons Why and Joe Bell. He had worked for decades, but now it was the second. Mac was the first. Next, the hardest part arrived. In 2020, the cancer. Mac became paralyzed from the chest down, unable to move or survive in their own. Gary started working full-time caregiver. He assisted his kid in everything, including medical, washing and feeding devices, even moving him out of bed to a wheelchair. The emotional burden was crushing. Seeing Mac struggle was excruciating, but there was never a chance of giving up. And nevertheless, Mac managed to produce despite being paralyzed. He strapped a Toka stylus in his palm and utilized it for he uses his laptop to compose songs among his Arctic circles, bits, and startled everyone. With his friend's assistance, Mac continued writing Oliver Schnee even while his body was failing. His songs turned into his voice. Gary relocated in 2021. The foundation's main office to Franklin. He required serenity. Mac required silence. The new city provided both. The base, which had raised more than $400 million for veterans and emergency personnel, suddenly had a new mission: help for cancer, motivated by Mac's fight, which grew to assist others centering the same horror. Next, in July in 2023, Mac finished the most crucial recording of his life. Participants in Gary's Latin band got together and started recording the music of Mac. It went beyond a simple session. It was a farewell present. The audio recording fully encapsulated the essence of a young man blossom. His body was deteriorating, but everyone understood its meaning. Mac was bidding farewell, but according to his terms, at 3:25 p.m. on January 5, 2024, Mac died following 5 grueling years of battling. His age was 33. His funeral service took place on January 23rd. Following his passing, Gary discovered more music, numerous files on his iPad, Dropbox, Mac's phone, and music in college. I wrote unused scores from undiscovered treasures, Gary's Foundation videos. Resurrection and Revival resulted from this part 2, a 2-disc vinyl set featuring 17 covers and the originals. Overall, 19 tracks. Noven saw the release of the album. On October 10, 2024, Mac will turn 34. Each and every the aroma from those CDs is now sent to Gary Sinise Foundation. Similar to McDesert, they come in uniquendals with prices ranging from $45. Toa signed deluxe edition costs $99 himself. What began as a private Mac's outlet has evolved into a fundraising powerful advocate for causes close to his heart profoundly. Gary's recovery came from a surprising location: his grandchildren. He leaned into being after Mac's passing. 5 little children, all between 1 and 8 years old. They are a part of Sophie and Ella, his kids. Hetron sports them to school. He brings them to parks with trampolines. Chuck E. Cheese is now one of his favorite places. They are aware a lot of ice cream will be served to them. Gary acknowledges that the embraces at Papa's are limitless. Home. And for a man who has been devastated by loss, his anchor is now this love. In 2023, the family relocated to Tennessee. It was less expensive, more peaceful, and near military installations. And further explanation why meant a great deal to Gary. Following a defeat, the decision made sense given his acting salary. However, more significantly, it brought him being nearer to his daughters in person and grandchildren. My favorite role is this one now, he says, not a celebrity or an actor, only Papa. However, that does not imply Gary's narrative is over. His base, which began in 2011 with the goal of helping veterans and first responders, has increased in size. Mac's lengthy illness altered its purpose. Cancer, its work now includes support. That the change wasn't only symbolic, it was individual. Mac had provided musical accompaniment, 4 years-long projects of the charity, who was actively involved and intended to take the lead in it. Following his passing, his records started to support the mission he had already envisioned directing. Since the foundation's establishment, it has raised more than $400 million. Mac's contributions, including musical and spiritual, are currently incorporated into its future. The effort is ongoing, not only in his voice, but driven by his memory. What about Hollywood? Gary is 70 years old. Right now, in an interview from 2025, he stated something might appear. He hasn't rejected acting, yet he refuses to accept any work that requires him to leave his home for too much time. No more. If the appropriation thing appeared, and the moment was good, he answered, I'd think about it. However, the goal is not to act. His relatives says Mac's music is his basis. Hugh worked on CSI for 9 years, which gave he had enough money saved to refuse. Now he advises being selective. Additionally, that liberty is more significant than any new position. He's constructed a more tranquil existence in rural Tennessee, a purposeful, life-centered existence in family, healing, and maintaining his keeping the legacy of his son alive.